Welcome to Nadis Eduk TV on Practical Research 1 and 2, the K-12 Basic Education Curriculum Senior High School Applied Track Subject PR1 and PR2. Under Chapter 1, Tips on Creating and Crafting your Chapter 1. So you need 10 hours or 10 meetings to finish Chapter 1. Our learning competency for today is Guidelines in Creating and Crafting your Chapter 1. The title of this lesson is Tips for My Working Study at 1. Our learning objectives. After the lesson, you should be able to 1. Determine the parts of Chapter 1. 2. Explain the parts included in Chapter 1. 3. Creates or crafts your Chapter 1. And 4. Cite the importance of each parts of the research in your working study. So let's dive now to our lesson, Parts of Chapter 1. Tips in creating and crafting your Chapter 1. Chapter 1 includes the problem, which consists of background of the study, statement of the problem, significance of the study, scope and delimitation, definition of terms, and reference. Now on this slide, under the Chapter 1, background of the study, you need to ask a question. What is research background? Research background is a brief outline of the most important studies that have been conducted, so far presented in a chronological order. Research background should also include a brief discussion of major theories and models related to the research problem. Now, how do you write a background for a research paper? The background of the study establishes the context of the research to the information that you are discussing in your paper. Thus, the background of the study generates the reader's interest in your research question and helps them understand why your study is important. Okay, so how to avoid common mistakes in writing the background? 1. Don't write a background that is too long or too short. Focus on including all the important details but write concisely. Number 2, don't be ambiguous. Number 3, don't discuss unrelated themes. Number 4, don't be disorganized. So remember that background of the study should have a minimum of 2 to 3 pages. So we move now to statement of the problem. How to write a problem statement? After you have identified a research problem for your project, the next step is to write a problem statement. An effective problem statement is concise and concrete. The statement of the problem should have the following. 1. Put the problem in context. So you need to answer this question. What do we already know? Number 2. Describe the precise issue that the research will address. What do we need to know? Number 3. Show the relevance of the problem. Why do we need to know it? Number 4, set the objectives of the research. What will you do to find out? You should be reminded that in practical research, focus on the concrete details of the situation. Where and when does the problem arise? Who does the problem affect? What attempts have been made to solve the problem? Also, a statement of the problem should contain 3 to 4 questions, either qualitative or quantitative research. So we are still in the problem, Chapter 1. We move now to the significance of the study. Write the significance of the study by looking into the general contribution of your research, such as its importance to society as a whole. Then proceed downward towards the individual level, and that may include yourself as a researcher. You start broadly, then taper off gradually to a specific group or person. Still in the Chapter 1, the problem, we move to scope and delimitation. The scope details how in-depth your study is to explore the research question and the parameters in which it will operate in relation to the population and time frame. The delimitation of a study are the factors and variables not be included in the investigation. Still in Chapter 1, the problem, we move to the definition of terms. Before a concept or construct can be measured, it must be defined. Researchers develop 2 kinds of definition. 1. Theoretical definitions, or what we call the conceptual definitions. 2. Operational definitions, which is the researcher's definitions. Theoretical definitions are basic dictionary definitions. They are frequently called constitutive or conceptual definitions. A theoretical definition gives meaning to the concept or construct under investigation, while operational definitions defines an object, event, variable, concept, or construct in terms of the specific process, tests, and measurements used to determine its presence or quantity. It transforms theoretical definitions into observable events. Moving on to the last part of the chapter 1, that is the reference. Sometimes they use notes, but in our construct, we use reference. So you might be wondering, what is a reference page and what are references in a paper? In the context of writing an essay, a reference, also called citation or source, identifies a source of information used by the essay's author. References are essential for any piece of academic work because they allow readers to verify the accuracy of the information in the essay by locating the information source. Textual works, datasets, audiovisual media, and online media may all be used as references. So what are some examples? We have journal article and other periodicals, chapters in books, images, graphs and charts, tables and diagrams, podcasts, videos, social media posts, and websites. Still under reference, sources that should not be in the reference page include personal communication information, such as names of people interviewed for an essay, quotations from study research participants, and general mentions of websites, software, or apps that are familiar to most readers. A reference page organizes all of these types of references in one place. It is a list of all sources cited and is the final page of an APA style paper. A consistent and organized reference page allows a reader to quickly identify the source of a piece of information for follow-up research purposes. Remember, in the senior high school, we are required to use the APA referencing style. So here, APA referencing page versus other styles. There is a variety of choices of style when it comes to organizing essay references. This lesson will focus on the APA style. The American Psychological Association, or APA, created the APA style as a standardized set of guidelines for references and grammar in academic works. So other commonly used citation styles include MLA, Chicago, and Turubian. In the MLA, or Modern Language Association formatting style, sources are listed in a section called Works Cited. The Chicago style and Turabian style require sources to be listed in a bibliography. Similar to the APA style reference page, bibliographies and works cited lists are located at the end of an essay as well. However, they each follow different formatting rules that dictate elements like punctuation and word order of each reference citation. Moving on, essay reference page versus in-text citation. Each source that is listed in the reference page must also be cited in the essay, whether in the text, table, footnote, or appendix. This is called in-text citation. An in-text citation is different in the reference page, although are required in the APA style paper. While a reference page is found at the end of an essay, an in-text citation appears directly in the essay itself, near the text that the source supports. It gives the reader the necessary information to locate the same source in the reference page. So this is the most important part in the APA style. An APA style in-text citation includes the source author's last name as well as the year in which the source was published. An in-text citation can be parenthetical or narrative. The parenthetical in-text citation both the author's last name and year of publication inside a set of parentheses, while the narrative citation includes only the year of publication inside the parentheses, while the author's name is written outside the parentheses. So, when the sources has two authors, an ampersand symbol separates the names in a parenthetical citation, while in a narrative citation, the names can be separated with the word "and". For three or more authors, the last name of the first author listed appears in the citation, followed by the phrase "et al." in both parenthetical and narrative styles. To give you a clear view of the essay reference page versus in-text citation, let us analyze this table. We have here names or the names of author or authors, year of publication, parenthetical in-text citation, and narrative in-text citation. Let's say we have Maya Angelou, published in 1969. In parenthetical in-text citation, we have in close parentheses Angelou, 1969, while in narrative text citation we have Angelou in close parentheses 1969. If there are two authors, Riley Sager and John Grisham, as example, published in 2021, we write them inside the parentheses Sager and the ampersand Grisham, 2021, while on narrative in-text citation we have Sager and Grisham in close parentheses 2021. If there are more than two authors, like for example H.P. Lovecraft, Edgar Allan Poe, and Leo Tolstoy, published in 1989, we use the word et al. Lovecraft et al. Of 1989. On narrative in-text citation, we use Lovecraft et al. 1989. Moving on, let's have an example of a qualitative research study. Unpublished undergraduate thesis from Bicol University, College of Social Science and Philosophy, Department of Peace Studies, Daraga Albay, Philippines. BUCSSP Undergraduate Research. The title, Discrimination Experienced by COVID-19 Patients in Castilla, Sorsogon. This is a case study submitted April 2022 by John Stephen D. Ludanco and Brian Edward D. Ludanco. Now, let us discuss the example on the parts of their chapter 1. Let's start with the introduction or the background of the study. Under their introduction of chapter 1, the problem and its setting, their topic is about discrimination. So here, they discuss the definition from Husman of 2020. Discrimination is an action or practice that excludes, disadvantage, or merely differentiates between individuals or groups of individuals on the basis of some ascribed or perceived trait. Still under introduction, they cited another author, the Philippine Information Agency of 2020. This study serves as their local setting. It also discusses the COVID-19 patients are suffering from harassments. Still under the introduction, background of the study, now they focus on the international setting taken from the study of Banot, Saint Verna, Charade of 2021, which also focuses on the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact not only on the physical and psychological health but also on the way people are interacting with others, are compelling enough to initiate analytical examination of the stigma and discrimination related with COVID-19. Still under the introduction, the researcher believed that in conducting this study, it will play a role in protecting the emotional and mental health of the people against discrimination. Now, this statement focus on the people experiencing discrimination. On the last part of their introduction, the researcher now focus on the aims or the goals of their study. That is, the researcher believed that in conducting the study, it will play a role in protecting the emotional and mental health of the people against discrimination. Under example from chapter 1, we move now to statement of the problem. The content of the statement of the problem, the general statement, the study primarily aims to determine the discrimination experienced by the COVID-19 patient at Castilla-Sorsogon. Specifically, it will seek answer to the following sub-problems. So we have here 5 sub-problems. Number 1, focused on the context. What is the socio-demographic profile of the COVID-19 patients in terms of age, sex, civil status, occupation, length, stay in hospital or the isolation facility, and the history of infection? Number 2, what is the forms of discrimination that you have encountered being COVID-19 patient? Number 3, what are the effects of discrimination in their emotional and mental being? Number 4, how do they cope with the discrimination experience? This now is the process and the measure. Number 5, what are the lessons learned in relation to the discrimination experience because of being a COVID-19 patient? Moving on the parts of chapter 1, we have the scope and the limitation. On the scope and delimitation, as you can see on this slide, the upper part is the scope while the lower part is the delimitation. If we're going to go the text, the present study only focused on the discrimination experienced by the COVID-19 patient at Castilla-Sorsogon. It will also aim to know the socio-demographic profile and so on and so forth. While on the delimitation, the study will not include COVID-19 patients who is below 18 years old and those who just undergo home quarantine. So they limit the study on this statement. On this slide is the next part, the significance of the study. Let us now take the example for the significance of the study. The study will be beneficial to the following. So, they first give significance to the COVID-19 patients. So, in this study, will provide information on how to deal and overcome the discrimination they might experience, specifically if it is a contagious disease like COVID-19. So as you can see, this study is beneficial to these COVID-19 patients because they will be given mechanism or coping mechanism to counter the discrimination that they will experience, and so on. And moving on, we have the families, the health workers, the local government. Still in the example for chapter 1, we have the reference. Some institution use notes, but in our senior high school program, we use references. So it was taken here, notes, based from the example. So you may change it into reference. So given here, the Philippine Information Agency, the PIA, so that is the name of the author, and then it was published on 2020. The title of the manuscript is the LGU Urge to Pass Ordinances Against Discrimination of Health Workers, the COVID positive patients. So, and the link is already provided. Under the definition of terms, here is the example. On their definition of terms, the variable are the following: age, civil status, the coping mechanisms, COVID-19 patients. So we just go to the age, their first variable. So from them, they give definition using the Australian Bureau of Statistics of 2017. which is from the source on their study. In this study, it is used to determine the socio-demographic profile of the COVID-19 patients in terms of age. So this is the researchers' definition. While on the upper part, from the Australian Bureau of Statistics, that is the source of their definition for the age. On this slide, we move to the rubrics. Now, in the rubrics, this will serve as the scoring guide for the submission of your chapter 1. For the rubrics, under the tips in creating and crafting your chapter 1, here is the rubrics for scoring your chapter 1. The related questions are the following. 1. The learner are able to decide on suitable quantitative or qualitative research in different areas of interest. Number 2. Designs a research useful in daily life. Number 3. Writes a research title. 4. Describe background of research. 5. State research questions. 6. Indicates scope and the limitation of the study. And 7. Defines terms used in the study. We have here the total and the computation. And the scoring guide will be excellent, good, fair, and poor, while the comments and suggestions will be provided by the teacher. In this slide, we have only one term to define, that is the reference, and the link is already provided. So that ends our lesson, and the reference for this material taken from the book or the books of Brian Edward Ludanko and John Steven Ludanko of 2022 from Bicol University Department of Peace Studies, Daraga Albay, and some internet links or websites provided. Please do not forget to like, share, subscribe, click the notification bell, add comments on this video. Thank you very much. And for further information, the author is already here, the name, the address, and the purpose of this material. Thank you very much.